Hey everybody, we are live. We're here. I don't know why. I don't know why you guys are having audio issues on the video. Hey, Paul.
Hey, 1 second. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
No.
Say something real quick.
Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Testing 1, 2, 3. We're doing a show. I don't know. Is there anything you want me to say?
I can hear you. That's good.
Okay, good. I think you're on the mic. Can you tap your mic?
Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
Let me check.
That's it. That's all good.
Yes.
Good. Let me make you a little less orange.
Yep. You gotta stop going to that tanning bed.
Who, you, me? Okay. Let me pull up some stuff we're going to talk about. Do we have the channel here? Yep, we do. And we're live there. We tweeted out that we're live, so perfect.
What happened? Am I not followed?
Sorry about that. Give me 1 second. Okay. Jesus Christ, what is going on here? Okay, got this. That's closed. That's closed. All right. People are complaining that our audio is imbalanced. Can I hear you talk?
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, for better or for worse. If you could
So
only
why
use
am
two
I
buttons.
so low? I'm trying to figure this out.
You sound fine to me.
I sound fine. I know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm looking at the levels. We're pretty equal. I don't know why there would be a discrepancy, but
Let me make this a little window.
I absolutely hate the how Windows did their sound settings now.
Who it did what?
Windows their sound settings.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to go there. I want to go to control panel. Why can Why would they hide this? Why are you doing this to me?
It's like you've never used Windows before.
I'm not,
Why do they make terrible UI decisions?
We're dead. Terrible. All right, whatever. We'll start. You ready?
Sure.
All right. All right, boys and girls, let's begin this in 3, 2, and 1. This episode of What the Tech is brought to you by Molecule. Molecule is reimagining the future of clean air, starting with the air purifier. For 10% off your first air purifier, visit molecule.com. That's MOLEKULE.com and enter the promo code Andrew10 at checkout.
What's the take? What's the take?
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew Zarian. I'm joined by my tag partner, Mr. Paul Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
I'm pretty good.
Pretty good. How you feeling today? Are you feeling good today?
No. It's been kind of like curiously busy, despite the fact that nothing should be happening right now.
Just
How are
in
you
life
doing?
in general?
Yeah, everything.
Just, everything. Everything is a little weird.
Why do you ask? Do I look
No.
like I need help?
No, you look
You
better
look
than
like
last week.
you're-
Last week you need a little help.
Yeah, last week. I can't even remember last week. What was happening last week?
I don't know. You were a little frazzled. That's all.
Yeah.
It was a good show, though. We had a lot of fun last week. It was the week of CES,
yeah.
which I kind of want to touch on a little bit and to see if
Mhm.
there's any big winners. What was the big story out of CES? We started it at the beginning of CES, the first day,
Yep.
and we'll comment about it. I want to get your opinion of it and also a whole bunch of other stuff. But
Okay.
before we continue, I want to remind everybody, for all things Paul, you can go to Thurrott.com. Great stuff on there. I was just on there. What article did I just finish reading here? Hold on, I have it highlighted. You were talking about PC sale growth.
Yep.
Great articles over there. You and Brad do a show titled "Goodbye Windows 7," which is what we're going to talk about a lot today. How the importance of Windows 7, how it changed computing for a lot of people. It really became the de facto operating system of an entire
Those two
era.
stories are interrelated, by the way. The whole
Yeah.
PC sale thing and Windows 7. So we'll get
Yeah.
to that.
So we're going to talk about that. But, of course, you could go to Thurrott.com, become a Thurrott Premium member. For Thurrott Premium content, you just pay a couple bucks. That's a couple bucks a day. What's your current rate right
A
now?
couple bucks a day. That'd be an
less than
expensive
that.
service.
Couple cents. Couple pennies.
A couple bucks a day.
Couple bucks a year. A month.
Yeah.
What are you down to? You're at $49, $59? I don't know.
I think the sale price is $48. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, $48. You got a sale. You got 35 plus years of trusted voice of technology. That being you, Paul. You're dating yourself. You get access to Thurrott Premium articles and a whole lot more. $48. That's a couple cents a day, which is not bad at all. Not a bad deal at all. And great stories, great articles, and people that you could trust in technology.
Not to jump into this, but I don't know. I'm not normally comfortable promoting anything, I guess. But one of the other reasons to join Thurrott Premium is that there tends to be a higher level of discourse in the premium comments.
Yeah.
And in the premium articles in particular. And I think, I just written something this week about the kind of toxicity that we all deal with online. And I don't know what the fix is for that, but I think one of the nice side effects of the premium stuff is that it's less of a problem.
It's a much cleaner and very engaging group of people, Thurrott Premium members.
Yeah.
Which is always great.
Yeah. Smart people. Yeah.
So I want to talk about Windows 7. It is
Mhm.
the end of support for Windows 7, and I kind of wanted to kind of go down because last week we were talking about when you first came on the show, and it was probably around the time Windows 7 got launched.
You think it was that long ago, really? I guess it could
2000, be. Yeah. I think we figured out that you joined in 2010. So it was,
Wow.
I mean, it was close.
Okay.
You joined the show in 2010. You became an official co-host in 2011.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, 2011 is notable for a number of reasons, but one of them is that was also the peak of the PC industry, right?
Yeah.
That was the year that the PC market sold more units than ever before or since. It's all been kind of downhill since then, Andrew, for all of us,
I know. What do you think the decline? It was just mobile computing, really, if you think about it.
Yeah.
It really was what changed it. But
It is that simple. Yeah.
I want to go back to Windows 7 because it really was, we have to remember what Windows Vista was expected to be and what it turned out to be with that initial launch. And we also, the whole thing about Vista, it's fascinating because we remember it a lot worse than it was, but
Yeah,
it was more the 64-bit era that was the problem.
right. And man, there are so many things in the history of Windows, in particular, the history of Microsoft more generally, that I still, man, things could have gone so differently. And Windows Vista, obviously started as Longhorn. Longhorn was revealed to the world in 2003, and then Microsoft eventually figured out that they couldn't ship it. Um,
Yeah.
it just was never going to work, and it was
Why?
really a far-reaching thing. They were going to replace the display subsystem, the communication subsystem, the file system. You know, um, it was a time too. We have to think about, like, this is pre-mobile, right? So the PC industry was still the center of personal computing. It was everything. Apple was trying to make a comeback at the time with the Mac, not with the iPod, or although the iPod had happened by this point, or the iPhone certainly, or the iPad or whatever. Um, PC was the center of everything, and on the Apple side, Apple had done some interesting things with the Mac, right? There was uh, accelerated graphics they had, the translucency effects, the operating system. A lot of people were complaining that Microsoft was really far behind. And Longhorn, part of that whole push was to make it, make Windows kind of catch up. And of course, what they finally shipped in 2006 or 2007, depending on if you were a business or a consumer, was a very stripped down version of what they had promised. And it still didn't run really
Yeah.
well on people's PCs. And everyone was freaking
Well,
out because this hardware accelerated graphics thing they all wanted, supposedly, now they couldn't run it. And they were all really mad about it.
I remember the big deal about WinFS and how it was supposed to be
Yeah.
the the file management
Yeah.
of the future, and it
Yep.
really, I, you know what I remember? It's interesting because we didn't get exactly that, but we did get something.
Well, what we got was indexing.
Yeah.
So it kind of came in fits and starts. By the way, not to make this like an Apple thing, but I mean, Apple also in Mac OS, I think it was in Tiger, but not that it matters. But right around the time that Microsoft was pushing Longhorn and that vision of, WinFS and instant, the idea, but, WinFS, it was a database backed file system. One of the ideas was that you wouldn't just search for a file name, but you could search for within the files, right? You could search for contents or
Yeah.
meaning, and it was kind of an interesting thing. Apple released a simpler version of that, and I think in Tiger, but the version doesn't matter. I think it was Sherlock first, and then it eventually became, what do you call search? The instant search feature in the Mac today. I don't even remember.
Spotlight.
You know, what is it?
Spotlight.
Spotlight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, And same thing. Like it will search for file names, it will search for documents, it will search within documents, it will search for contacts, it will do all kinds of things. And Microsoft eventually came to understand, as Apple did, that the functionality that they wanted from WinFS was possible without stripping out the operating system and the file system and replacing it with something completely different. So
Well,
it was one of many avenues they kind of went down for a long, long time, and then eventually realized, like, this is pointless.
here's a quote from Bill Gates in
Hmm.
2013. He
Yeah,
cited WinFS as his greatest disappointment at Microsoft,
yeah,
and that the idea
yeah.
of WinFS was ahead of its time, which will reemerge.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it didn't, and it
It'll
won't.
reemerge.
It's not going to. So, no, I mean, look, there are things that don't matter too much to this audience.
Yeah, I
Don't
know.
matter too much to me. But I mean, one of the things that people might remember if they were in the Microsoft sphere at the time was Microsoft was going to replace the back end of everything with this SQL based database, right? So one of the things they had was they had an Exchange email server that was using a Jet database engine. Microsoft wanted to replace that. That proved to be too difficult. And then, of course, the file system, same thing. It's just too big and ponderous, and it doesn't really scale to these types of applications. Obviously, a SQL database, or their SQL Server database in particular, is good for certain things. But flash forward to today, Microsoft also has other databases, right, for cloud use. They still obviously have SQL Server. They have SQL Azure services and so forth. But I mean, I don't. Again, this was that period of time. I would say between the release of Windows XP and the release of Windows 7, which is almost a decade. was a period of great problem for Microsoft. You know, the antitrust stuff, they couldn't ship Longhorn. They released different versions of Windows XP. They had the weirdness where the netbook took off right when Windows Vista was coming out, which for
It
the day was kind of big and heavy, and not only couldn't run on tiny little netbooks, but
yeah.
couldn't run on a lot of normal PCs. They had to release a new version of XP after they had shipped Vista. I mean, it was just, you know, and of course, as you get toward the end of this time, Windows 7 came out in 2009. Um, the iPod had transformed Apple in that decade. They shipped the iPhone in 2007. It became a blockbuster smash in, we'll say 2009, actually, you know, once it kind of caught up to the stuff that it didn't have and then expanded to different carriers and around the world. It was a blockbuster, you know, it changed everything. Um, and yeah, that's the world, you know, that was the world that's what predated Windows 7 essentially. Those were the conditions. They tried and failed with Zune. They later tried and failed with Windows Phone, Microsoft that is, you know. They went down all these avenues. The tablet PC failed. Windows Media Center failed. You know, they tried and you know, vestiges of those things kind of continued, of course, but um yeah, that was the end. I mean, I think Windows 7 is the end of that era. It's the last version of Windows that was created for PCs and only for PCs. There were no other things. It was just for PCs,
Well, it's the
you
last
know?
the last traditional operating system for
Yeah.
Microsoft. I mean,
Yep.
listen, here's the thing. Apple's still doing it.
Yeah, but you know what? Apple's still doing the Mac, you mean? Like the still
Yeah,
that yeah.
yeah, the Mac OS, yeah.
Yeah, and right. In other words, the Mac OS of today is very similar to the Mac OS that competed with Longhorn. You know, I mean,
Way
for
way
sure.
way more similar than Windows would be, you know, at this point.
Yeah, because Apple had great success with devices, and so their mobile stuff, which was humongous and correctly so, you know, they didn't need to bring that stuff to the Mac. The Mac was is still a much smaller market, so um, that was the direction they went. And you know, I whether they were right or not is kind of one of those weird things to say. Like it was companies play to their strengths. You know, it's that when you're a hammer, everything's a nail kind of thing. Apple saw great success with the iPod, which was a device and not a Mac.
Yeah.
They saw even greater success with the iPhone, and that kind of set them down this path where that became the focus. Microsoft wasn't able to build off the success of Windows to enter successfully into many markets. I mean, you could make the argument that they were successful on server. But then again, you know, you kind of look at where the world went. It's kind of a Linux world on server, isn't it? You know, in cloud services too.
Yeah, more
So
and more, really.
yeah,
If
so
you
they
I mean,
certainly saw some
cloud-based.
success there, but
I
you know,
just find the entire the transition from Windows 7 to now,
yeah,
I find it fascinating because Windows 8 really if Windows 8 didn't
sucked.
happen the way that it did, yeah, if it wasn't as
Yeah,
aggressive as for change as it was, I
yeah.
don't know if Windows 10 would have had the success that it did.
Yes. I mean, so yeah, God, there's so many different ways to look at this. You know, one of the things I will always feel bad about for Microsoft, whatever that means, to feel bad for a company, but to feel bad for the people who strive to make this stuff, you know, is that Windows Vista was something they tried to blow everybody away and make this incredible thing, and they failed.
Yeah.
And I was worried after Windows Vista they would never try again. And that Windows 7, you know, for as good as it is, it's just an evolution of Windows Vista. They kind of fixed the problems. They moved on. Great, neat. Um, you know, Windows 10 is kind of the same system. You know, Windows 8, they they saw how the world was going, right? They saw that mobile was happening. They knew that the days of the PC were numbered, that this market was going to contract dramatically because of mobile. How do we ride that wave? It has to be PC based. You know, that's where the only place we're really successful. And I give them credit for trying. I mean, as insane as Windows 8 is or was or whatever. I mean,
I mean, it is insane. It was insane.
it is, but I give them credit for trying. Where I would criticize that group of people, the people that made Windows 8, Steven Sinofsky and his various cohorts, is that they just did it wrong, and that the culture of Microsoft at the time was such that a person as divisive as him could be in charge of everything and not work with their mobile groups, like the people who eventually made Windows Phone, and make a cohesive platform. They just made something that was kind of similar to Windows Phone on top of Windows, but not compatible, not the same for developers, not the same for apps, not the same for users. I mean, that was a huge strategic mistake. I don't mean to suggest that if they had done it just right, Microsoft would be ruling the world now instead of
Yeah.
Apple. I think this thing was still going to happen anyway.
I mean, this
But
is fascinating though. You look at market share, right? And then we
yeah,
got to take a little break and thank our sponsor. But I do want to I want
mhm,
people to think about this. This is as of
yeah,
December 2019, right?
yep,
Windows 10 market share. You tell me if this is accurate. This is based on stat
okay,
counters, global stats.
yeah,
65%,
yeah,
65.4% Windows 10, 26.79% Windows 7. Okay. Here's where it gets interesting. Windows 8 1, 4.87, Windows
hmm
8 1.29, and Windows XP 1.29. XP
yeah,
and Windows 8 have the same market share. I, I,
yeah.
I mean,
So
unbelievable.
yeah, so Windows 8 is the Vista of its age. If you were to look at a similar thing, say 6 years earlier, that's where Vista would have been. You know, it becomes this kind of a footnote thing. When I don't remember the numbers, but when Windows XP expired finally late in the game, like 2 years too late, there were still hundreds of millions of people using that. When Windows 7 retires this year, there are still hundreds of millions. Um, 26% stack counter. I think net market share puts it closer to 30 something percent, but whatever, we'll say a little less than a
By the way,
third.
that
I
was
mean, we'll
global.
talk.
Those were global numbers. Global numbers.
Yeah,
U.S.
that's
numbers
fine.
very different. We got a very different conversation for U.S. numbers. Seventy-five
Well, it's not,
percent.
whatever, worldwide, whatever,
Yeah,
it's fine. I just, but the point is, it's still hundreds of millions of people. So here we are. This is the day where Windows 7 is heading out to pasture, and there are still hundreds of millions of people on it. I think the thing that separates Windows 7 from its predecessors on the day of expiration, right, on the day that support will no longer be provided, is that having been using it now for the past few weeks, it still feels modern. It still runs all the applications. You know, there are no examples of anything that doesn't work in Windows 7 that matter. Um, it's not insecure. It's not insecurable. You know, I mean, it will become insecure by virtue of the fact that Microsoft has just stopped supporting it. That's the only reason. There aren't any inherent security problems with it compared to Windows 10. Um, it's interesting. It's just different, and you know, as the you know, compared to the past, when I don't know, the PC market has matured, and it's Windows has matured, and all that mobile stuff they added in 8 and then again in 10 has basically not mattered in the slightest.
yeah. I
You
uh
know,
I I find it very interesting. Just how the market share is and everything. We're gonna touch on this a little bit more, but before
yeah,
we continue, I want to thank our great sponsor, and it's Molecule. This thing is unbelievable. So I live in a very old house, and I tell the story all the time. My house is 120 something years old, and no matter how much work we do in this house, it's still a very dusty house. I have terrible environmental allergies. Absolutely, I mean, just abysmal. And I get really any kind of dust or pollen or pine. Like we can't have a pine tree in the house. We can't have a Christmas tree, spruce, whatever you have. I can't have it because I'm very sensitive to the smell and everything.
because you
So
hate Christmas. Is
because
that
I
why?
hate Christmas, bah humbug. Now Easter eggs I'm okay with.
Right.
But here's a great thing. Molecule is a one of a kind air purifier, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit. But before I do, 10% off your first air purifier when you visit molecule.com. That's MOLEKULE.com, and you enter the promo code Andrew10 when you check out. Now, the thing that separates them is the technology that they use. They have breakthrough Pico technology across a range of their products. So it collects the air. It's not a HEPA filter. It's a very different type of filtration that they do where it gets particles that traditional filters wouldn't get. And it's given allergy and asthma sufferers around the world a whole new experience. And I can vouch to this because I use this thing to the point that I have now bought a second one. I bought the Air Mini, the Molecule Air Mini, which is for smaller rooms. I have a big one in my living room. I have a second one in my basement, a big one in my basement, and I have a little one for upstairs. These are unbelievable air purifiers. I know multiple people that have purchased it in my personal life, and they absolutely love it. because it works. It's not outdated HEPA filters that collects large pollutants, but they miss all the little things like mold, viruses, bacteria, volatile organic chemicals. Uh, Paul, you have the same thermostat. I don't know if you hooked it up, the glass
No,
thermostat.
no, I can't. It really
Oh yeah,
it
you
just
don't have
wouldn't
the
do it
3
up here.
cables. So I
Yeah.
have it and I hooked mine up. And I really honestly I go based on its readings, and it actually tells you the quality of air based on volatile organic chemicals in the air or just dust or pollen. It's able to kind of it has a sensor in it, so it knows. And whenever I turn the molecule on, my air quality goes through the roof. When it's off, you could see it going to poor or fair and not great. So you could see a instant difference, within a couple hours of running this. I absolutely love it. I'm a big fan of it. And you guys should check it out too. Go to molecule.com. That's molekule.com and use the promo code Andrew10 at checkout. You get 10% off your first air purifier. I vouch for them. They're great. I use them. If I could have it in every room, I would. That's molecule.com. So Paul,
Yes.
so what does this mean now that they're ending support? How do you think this is going to change the market share in PC sales?
So this is something I'm struggling to try to understand and explain, right? So I wrote an article today. Well, I actually wrote two articles today about PC market share, right? And so what does the impact of Windows 7 retiring, how does that impact PC sales, if at all, right? One thing we learned this week is that PC sales last year rose 1.9%, which is not anything.
Yeah.
But after 7 years of decline, honestly, we're going to take 1.9% and declare that a victory. The problem is that represents the bump that Windows 7 retiring brought, right? So we'll probably see something similar this year because there are still more Windows 7 PCs
Well,
to come. And
by
so,
looking at the stats, there was a bump in September 2019
mhm,
for Windows 10 market share and it became more drastic in September
yeah,
compared to the rest of the year, which I find interesting.
right,
So
right.
whatever it was.
Yeah, the end of the year is actually the only reason it was a plus for 2019, which is fine. Doesn't really matter when it happened, but that's true. Um, that's not much of a bump, right? I just said there are hundreds of millions of people out there, right? So what's going on? I I think this is just an indication of how the PC market's changed. You kind of have to look at a calendar and think about the dates at which various versions of Windows were released and when various versions of Windows were retired. Windows 7, when it arrived, instituted the greatest jump in PC sales that had ever occurred. And then Windows 8 came and it's been going down ever since.
But I
Um,
mean, a lot of that is attributed to more people becoming technologically comfortable,
yeah, yeah.
right? I mean,
I mean, well, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that Windows 7 arrived right before the iPhone, right?
or
So,
Vista was a travesty. I mean, do you think that played a
yeah,
part, or you
Vista
think it was
was a
just a luck?
travesty, but you know what? PC sales rose every year that Vista was out. The PC
Interesting.
market would give anything to have those sales back. Like that growth rate would be amazing today. Um, it's just, you know, comparatively, yes, it was a travesty to the time compared to what's happened since. I think we would look back fondly on that, you know.
Yeah.
But it was absolutely a disaster. But it didn't ruin Windows. See, the problem for Windows 8 was that Windows 8 was launched in the wake of the iPhone, in the wake of the iPad, and it was like they were just getting everything wrong. It's like you have to get this right. This is the transition that's important, and they completely flubbed it. Um, and so here we are. The market is what it is, but I the problem for the PC market is with these hundreds of millions of people out in the world, where do they go next? I think a lot of them aren't going anywhere next, right?
Yeah.
They're either going to just hang on to Windows 7. We know that all of the top browsers will support Windows 7 at least for 18 months. They supported Windows XP for, I think it was 2 years. So there's a couple of years there. We know that businesses have 3 years, that Microsoft will support them if they pay. So that's going to happen. We know that Microsoft and third-party AV vendors will support Windows 7 with antivirus, anti-malware updates for we don't know how long, but for some amount of time. So I think that will happen. I think some people will not need to get another PC. They've moved on. They're using an iPad. They're using a Mac. They're using
It,
phones for everything.
I mean, it really
They're done.
it's becoming for the consumer. I'm not talking about the work environment, but as far as a normal computer user, it's a niche device now. If you
Yeah,
think
and
about
even sorry.
what you get done, if you think about what you get done on a PC compared to what you
Right.
get done on a phone, or even a tablet, it's other than specific needs. Why do you need a PC?
And even those specific needs are actually kind of dwindling. So, for example, one thing I've been working on for the past 2+ months, and I never intended to spend this much time on this, but I've been writing like this notepad clone, right? And one of the things I still haven't completely solved is printing. And the reason is printing in the particular technology that I'm using is very, very difficult. And I have to tell you, I think about this a lot because I don't think anyone really prints anymore. I don't think printing is an important function for this application. But printing is one of those reasons that people kept PCs around for a while.
Yeah,
I was thinking this past week, my wife and I went to a movie the other day for the first time in a year or more. We don't go to movies. I don't think I could have printed. Well, actually, I guess I could have, but printing like a pass for like a movie, for a museum, for an airplane or whatever, I don't it's not necessary anymore, you know?
yeah.
This
You
stuff
just
is all on your phone now. And
well, I'll tell you
maybe
something.
you have an app. Hmm?
Even with work stuff, I always thought I needed my computer to print. I can't remember the last time I printed anything via a computer. I always print on my phone. Like I'll give an example. I
Oh,
have the
printing
Apple
for
Card.
okay,
I have
yeah,
the Apple Card, right? And
yeah,
this speaks volumes. I have the Apple Card, and um, with the Apple Card, the statement comes on your phone. So you
right,
could either transfer it or email it to yourself, or you could print right there from your phone. I printed right from my phone.
okay. I mean,
Again, that's
yeah, there you
another
go. I
thing.
mean, I don't think printing is a big function, but yes, now you can print from, you can print from anything now. So it kind of eliminates one of the reasons why someone would have kept a PC around for a while. I still feel, for certain tasks, obviously, if you're going to write at any great length, you're going to work in a spreadsheet. And then the high end things, like if you're going to, edit video or play a game or, play like a 3D, AAA game.
Yeah.
You want the big screen, you want the keyboard, you want the mouse, but those are kind of nichey things for most people. I mean, it's just not as usual it used to be. So that's the problem. I mean, at least when XP went out, well, actually, they faced that problem with XP. Kind of went out right at the beginning of this phase. Windows 7 is going out right at the end of this phase, and now we have Windows 10, which is going to just be kept around for a long time. They've pretty much guaranteed that we're not going to get the other end of this bump, which is like big new versions of Windows. Like Windows 7 was a really big bump for PCs. By the way, Windows Vista was too. I can't explain that, but it was. Um,
I guess
Windows
the
8 was not.
promise, right? The promise
Yeah,
of what it was
maybe I don't
supposed
know.
to do.
Well, at least with Windows Vista, you could make the argument. You want the glass effects? You're probably going to have to get a new computer. So
But I mean,
people,
technologically, from Windows 98, if you think about it, Windows XP,
yeah.
right? Actually, not so much from XP to Vista, but I always say XP to 7 was a large change as far as ease of use.
Uh,
Things just work better.
yeah. I think in the XP timeframe, XP came with wireless network for the first time, wireless networking. They had versions of XP for tablets and versions of XP for media centers. By the time Windows Vista came, and it was the case with 7 as well, those things were just built into the product. And so they stopped differentiating that stuff. And that was just a feature of PCs. Like you didn't have to buy a special kind of a thing to make that stuff happen. So, there was a maturity there, but I, I don't know. It's such a different world. I mean, it's
Yeah.
impossible to look at Windows 7 today and not sort of see that divide. See Windows 7 as the end of the line, for this world, not just where PCs were on this upward growth trajectory, although that was true, but the PCs were PCs. They were just PCs.
Well, how about
Microsoft
this?
never uses the term PC anymore.
No.
They talk about devices. They talk about Windows running on everything from, well, not phones anymore, but tablets and IoT to big screen devices like Surface Hub. It runs on Xbox. It runs, it's like this. it's kind of lost its identity as being what the thing I always cared about, which was just this kind of general purpose productivity platform for PCs specifically. Um, and yeah, it's going away.
Well, you look at just I I call it when you brought up Windows XP, I call it the travesty of 2005 for me, where my RAID
Okay.
collapsed.
Yeah.
I had a RAID 0 and I didn't have redundancy and I lost
Oh
everything.
boy. Yeah.
I'm still scorned by this. Still so upset over this, but like you don't have these issues, and obviously technology's improved. So the Windows is far more leaner and more efficient than it ever was. That plays a big role in PC sales. Before
Right.
I truly believed every 3 years it was time for an upgrade, but it's not the case anymore.
So, by the
Hasn't
way,
been for a
Windows
while.
7 was also the first version of Windows that had lower system requirements than its predecessor.
Yes,
And
and
that's been
that's why you can
something
run
they've
it.
kind of continued. Again, it was kind of a low bar, like Windows Vista was a little top heavy, but and it was an obvious thing to fix, but that's something they've continued for sure. I don't know. I I don't know. This is I really like Windows 10. There are obviously some high level areas where I feel like they being Microsoft have really kind of screwed the pooch. And I think one of the problems they faced was look, they understood that people were not going to be upgrading PCs every 3 years or 5 years. It was 7, 8, 10, or never. And so they didn't have that reliable annual or, every 3 year income anymore. So how do we make up for that? And what you look at is like these post monetization solutions, like Apple's done with their services. Same thing. They're facing the same problem. How do we keep the revenue gravy train rolling when people are only buying iPhones
Yeah.
once every 5 or 6 years, not every 2 years? It's the same thing. And so, unfortunately, in Microsoft's case, they've gone with built-in crapware. They've gone with built-in ads. They fired their testing team, and they're using built-in telemetry.
Yeah,
Um,
not
they've
great.
just done some things that are kind of crappy, and it's unfortunate. So, Windows 7 is a little hobbled by that. And I'll just say, again, I've been using Windows 7 recently. It fails the upgrade test. Windows 10 does, because one of the things I've always said about Windows in particular, but I would say this about any kind of software, is you can rate the quality of an upgrade by going back to the previous version,
Hmm.
and you'll miss things, right? And if you miss things from the new one, then you can tell the new one's a good upgrade. Now, granted, the previous version of Windows 10 is actually Windows 8, but the fact that an older version of Windows, in this case Windows 7, is actually in many ways cleaner and better than the current version doesn't speak well to what's happened since. And I don't think that's ever happened in the history of Windows, even though I know people will point at Windows Me or something, or Vista, and
Yeah.
say, well, that one was a piece of crap. And it's like, well, yeah, certainly they both had issues, but they also both had like these major improvements that I think, um, were more important than the deficiencies. In Windows 10's case, it's like, yeah, you can make that argument, but it's a little tough that it's just not obviously better in every way like it should be.
Yeah. Since we're on the Microsoft topic today, Microsoft previews the next major launcher.
Hmm.
Microsoft Launcher preview is now available in the Google Play Store, and this kind of gives us a peek, right, at what to expect from them moving
Yeah.
forward, because it's not a bad launcher. I mean, it
No, I
actually,
I actually really like it.
yeah,
The launch is tough for people, for Microsoft fans in some ways, because obviously a lot of them were Windows Phone fans, and it's not Windows Phone. It doesn't have live tiles, it doesn't have these activity hubs and things, and people miss that stuff, and I get that. But the mobile world has kind of moved on too. So I think the important thing for people to understand, and I think it's finally happening, is that the Microsoft launcher represents Microsoft's thinking today, not its thinking from 2010 or 2009 or whatever year that was, um, but rather this is what the vision looks like today. And I think it's a good one.
mm,
I think they have a nice design language. I think they have a nice look and feel. It's a pretty launcher.
yeah, very,
The preview version is not feature complete. I mean, there's stuff missing still because they're just, they're kind of testing it. But I think this thing is in a good place. And with Microsoft finally coming out with their own phone this year,
this kind
I
of
think it's
makes
important that they get
sense.
this right because yeah, it's going to ship with this
Yeah.
thing. So
I, I
this is
I'm
kind
I'm
of a peek at
still
that.
I'm still really hopeful and adamant that they will release a normal smartphone, not a a two screened or a bend.
Yeah.
Not
Yep.
they're gonna release something like this with it, and I'm a big fan of that, and I don't know if it's uh, a disruptor. I doubt it, but the fact that
No.
they have a partnership with Android, they are releasing an Android phone,
Yep.
and they have a launcher makes a lot of sense to them.
You know what? As long as it doesn't detract from anything, there's nothing wrong with it, and there's no reason they can't do this and have it be a successful small business. And that's why I agree with you. I think they should do an Android phone. It's not going to be the next Samsung Galaxy S, whatever. It's not going to beat the market lead. Like that's not really the point. But
But how do you
but-
become that? Let's say you're Microsoft. How do you
well,
become that?
why do you have to become that? I mean, what if you could just have a successful hardware business that makes money and it satisfies some needs for some important customers like businesses, right? There might be enterprises that want to standardize on the Microsoft stuff. I mean, it's there's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't have to be in the top five. Surface is, by the way, is not in the top in the top anything. Surface PCs don't make any charts except once in a while randomly. I mean, if you look at like the market share stats from last year, they don't Microsoft doesn't show up anywhere. Does that mean the business is a disaster? It's like are they being defeated or something? Like no,
Yeah.
those are still great computers. Like people who buy those things love them and for good reason. They're fantastic. They should do that with phones too. There's no reason not to.
I mean, they could just. They could get some market share. Have a decent camera, a
They
really good
could,
camera.
but it
What if they
doesn't
put out?
matter. Like
But
like I
what
mean
what would it
that's
do? What would it mean to the market if they put out the best Android phone on the market? I
you know
mean,
what? I
what would
I
that
look,
do?
there are things that Microsoft absolutely gets wrong in the PC space, but there are things that it really gets right. And I think it serves as an inspiration for other PC makers in this case to do some things that are kind of interesting. I think that they're kind of doing that with the web browsers right now. They're not the only one, but they are taking um, this Chromium base and they're turning it into a better browser that's kind of de-Googleified or whatever. And I think there's something smart about that. I think they could serve the same role in Android as well. And even if they're not in the top, five or whatever, um, if all they do is inspire other people to do the right thing there,
Then
that's
they did their job.
fantastic. That's
Yep.
actually part of the problem I have with Windows 10, by the way. Remember, Microsoft used to have this signature PC program that served as an inspiration for how a PC should be. And one of the big things was this thing is lean and mean. It's got exactly the right drivers. It has no crap on it. And what does Microsoft do now? They put crap right in Windows 10. I mean, I mean, they had it. They had it
Yeah.
right, and they completely reversed on that, and it's sad.
I I I do think that it made it though. Those signature series devices really
Yeah.
did help clean it up. But you're right. I don't know why they have all that crapware now. I mean, I know why because they're
Well,
making money from it, but
that's why.
it
It's
totally goes against everything.
it's because people don't buy PCs anymore,
Yeah,
you know,
and they have to. They have to subsidize it some way.
as much as they used to. Yeah.
It's fascinating to me how they've changed, but going forward, we'll see what happens. I'm excited for this launch. I got to install it on my Samsung. I got to wipe that thing out and start over. It's giving me a lot
Yeah.
of issues. Let's talk about CES a little bit. Anything stand out to you by the end of CES?
I mean, aside from the sheer futility of it, well, I don't remember if we talked about this. There were a couple of health related things that I think are kind of interesting. You're familiar with the company with, I think it's called Withings,
Yes.
right? So was temporarily part of Nokia, but now it's back its own company. They have an interesting line of smartwatches. They announced new versions of those. I think that's an interesting approach because rather than coming out with yet another Apple Watch clone, these guys are making what look like beautiful round analog watches, and they have kind of a round digital part that is connected to all these sensors and
Yeah.
it does all this testing. And so the new version does the ECG or EKG stuff. It does whatever the sleep apnea testing is called. It's not just VO2, but it's some kind of it tests for sleep apnea basically, in addition to all the other stuff they already do. I think that kind of stuff is huge. And it's not just that company. I think the the fitness, wearable, health related stuff, I think is really important. I think that's going to be a big thing for this year. Um, I'm starting to think that the voice command in the house, like, hey, name of thing, do this, is, I'm not saying it's never going to take off, but I find myself drifting away from it explicitly. Like, I'm actively considering getting rid of all of that stuff in my house. Like, I really don't like it.
And
Um,
what don't you like?
I don't like the voice speaker stuff. I don't,
That
I,
it's
I
listening or that?
yeah, I don't like any of it because it's all, see, the problem is the companies that are successful in this market, which is basically Amazon and Google, are successful because they know too much about you, and that it's all about selling something, either an ad or literally a product that you need. And I find that to be very invasive, and I'm getting a little tired of it. I also think that the functionality is not really there yet, and that this hope for natural conversations has not really occurred, that we're not living in that Star Trek future.
Mm,
Um, there are also, the other thing I'd say is, like, we have a couple smart displays. We really like those. We like those because they're smart picture frames. That's all they are.
yeah.
And I, I say that like that's bad, but that's an incredible functionality. I really like that. I want. I think I want to get out of these big tech ecosystem data privacy funnels. I just feel like this is a problem. I want, like, if I want to talk to something, like if I want to talk to an assistant, it's on my phone. So it's always nearby. I mean, I think we talked about this. One of the goofy things when you have a bunch of speakers in your house is you'll say, like in my case, I'll be like, hey, G, whatever the thing is, what's the weather going to be tomorrow? And it will pick up on my phone, and then it will answer out at some speaker in my kitchen.
Huh.
And it's like, what?
Well, here's the
Like,
thing.
what? Why
So
is,
I have the Google Hub, the
yeah,
Nest Hub,
yep.
and what I do like about that is that I could turn it off. I could turn the speaker, the microphone off on it. It has a
So,
switch.
by the way, I
Yeah.
just did this.
Okay.
So I have the Lenovo one, but whatever. I don't know how it works
Same
on
thing.
Google,
Yeah.
but yeah, but there's a hardware switch.
Yeah.
You can turn off the microphone. Neat. So then I thought, well, and it says mic muted on the screen. Like, you can't get rid of it. Like, it says it on the screen. It kind of, it's okay. I can deal with that. But I have these Google Home speakers. So I have a pair of minis in the living room. I have a pair of the regular Google Homes in the kitchen. They're stereo pairs. That's why I have two of each. And I went into the living room and I'm like, there must be a way to mute this thing. And there is. There's a hardware switch in the back. But then it has four orange lights on the top that stay on. So we're watching TV at night and it's like four orange lights twice in front of the TV. And I'm like, how do you turn that off? The answer is you don't. You
Yeah.
unplug it. So I unplugged them. So then I went into the kitchen. I was like, all right, how do we do that? Same thing. You get a ring of orange lights on the thing. And then plus it's really annoying when if you turn off a microphone and something, it's like the microphone is off.
Yeah.
You won't be able to blah, blah, blah until, and it's like, you know what? I think I just want to get rid of these things. I just,
Yeah.
we have like one of the newer Sonos speakers that has Google. Well, you could have Alexa or Google built into it. I chose Google because that's the stuff I use. And my experience with it is the app I listen to podcasts with doesn't connect with it.
Oh,
So
that's
I'll
great.
actually put the phone on top of the speaker. I will turn the microphone on and off in doing that, and it will tell me that it's doing it. And the only interaction I have with this thing via voice is that. And it's it talking to me because I have turned on or turned off its microphone. And it's like, you know what? I'm going to turn this off because I don't
Yeah.
need this stupid thing listening to me.
I turn mine off all the time. You know what I
Yeah.
do love though? I do like the Nest Hub. I like that I have the display there, and there's so many moments
Yeah. I like
that
the
my wife,
display. Yeah.
because my wife and I, we like to cook, right? We like to
Yep.
cook together and have a glass of wine. That's our thing that we do. And
Okay.
we're listening to music, and then something will come up, and like, oh my god, did you see this video? I pull it
Right.
up on my phone. I just send it over to the hub, and we're watching it on that.
Yeah. And none of what you just described requires voice.
None of that
You know what I
requires
mean?
voice. No, none of it.
Right. Yep. This is
I
exactly
do.
where I want to be. I
So
am right in the middle of pulling the trigger on all of this.
I started using Duo. Okay. So if I'm coming home and my kids
Wow.
love it,
Really?
I know my kids
Really?
absolutely love it.
Duo.
I'm the only one.
You've just outed yourself as the only Duo user on Earth.
I am the only Duo user because
I have never met anyone who uses Duo.
well, I'll
That's
tell you
not that
why.
that means anything.
So nobody uses it,
Okay.
right? It works great, but I'll
Mm.
use it because here it is. I'm using it.
Works great.
Because I call Duo, I call the house, and it rings on the nest
Yes,
hub,
okay.
and my kids think
Yes.
it's black magic.
Right, because you can do
It-
well, by the way, that's one of the things you can do with your voice too, is you could do like a broadcast,
Yeah,
and it will go to every speaker in the house.
yeah, which is cool.
Yeah,
All right,
voice
that's
of
fine.
God stuff. It's good.
Yeah. So I want to talk about CES a little bit. We didn't really. We were kind of on the subject. We veered off into our rant about
Yep, sorry.
company spying on you.
Yep.
If you want, we can start talking about the Anunnaki next in our next segment. But
What I don't
let's
even know what that is.
the Anunnaki, Paul.
Mm-mm.
Yikes!
What is
Very
it?
disappointed in you that you don't know that we came from another planet called Nibiru, and these
Oh,
overlords are
I
called the
gotta tell you,
Anunnaki.
it's you were like this close to an intervention.
I told the story on What to Talk. You know what? I'm gonna save it on Matman. I'm gonna save it for What to Talk. I'm gonna save the story
Okay.
for What to Talk. So I don't know if you have a list on Thurrott.com for what you like that stood out. I know you hate those top 10
No.
lists.
No, I don't.
But CNET had one that when I went through it, it was more detailed than anybody else.
Okay. Oh my
Um,
God, they were pretty heavily invested in.
oh my
CES,
God.
my God.
I would love to know how much they spent on this. Everybody was flown out there. They had no staff in New York. I don't know how anything got done. Everybody was out there for CNET, but they really when and this list was not bad. So something that stood out that a lot of people were discussing, and I was surprised it got a lot of steam because I've seen this in the past, and I never thought it's something that we would want it, people would want to take off.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at this. Alienware had a concept. It's called the UFO, and it's a Nintendo Switch-like device that's
Yes.
running Windows on it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see this thing?
Yes.
So it's just a PC. It's a it's a tiny display. It's an
Yeah.
8-inch display. You can remove the side; it clicks off. But essentially,
Yeah.
it's a 8-inch PC. I don't
Sure.
have the total specs of this thing in front of me. I'm trying to find it. But you can connect it to Steam or whatever and just play games on that thing.
I mean, this is like using a Surface tablet to do the same thing, right? Except it has the built-in controller if you want to do that.
Yeah. Um. I I'm curious
mean-
about if this is going to take off because I saw a number of these devices. Razer also had one like this, and it seems like people like the form factor because they've seen the
Yeah,
success.
but what's the? I don't know. Microsoft never made a portable Xbox anything for some reason. Sony's kind of came and went. Obviously, Nintendo is the market leader there. They've always done really well with that stuff. I've never understood why things didn't go differently on mobile. And now we have phones, and tablets. So maybe that's the problem. I don't know. It seems like if you want a gaming PC, you want
Yeah.
a PC.
By
like a
the
big
way, I
PC.
absolutely love the Nintendo Switch. I'm telling you, I love this thing. I got one for Christmas. My wife just got it for me, and
Mhm.
I cannot tell you how much fun I'm having playing on this stupid thing.
are
And
you
the
playing?
fact I'm playing Mario Kart, I'm playing Mario Odyssey, I'm playing Super
Yep.
Mario Deluxe Remastered, and then I downloaded all these remastered games like Castle Crashers Remastered
Wow.
and Buckethead, Cuphead,
Buckethead?
Cuphead.
Buckethead, the
Buckethead
guitarist from Guns N' Roses.
I downloaded him and he just showed up.
Yep.
I'm
that
having
guy.
so much fun, but you know what's cool about it?
Mhm.
My kids are young, right? My daughter's
Yep.
4 and my son is almost 3.
Right.
They pick up the controller and they play Mario Kart. They got the concept of it. They could do it,
Sure.
which
Plus,
is
those
interesting.
games I think speak to kids too. Just the colors and the graphics. It's
Yeah.
kind of like the time I introduced my children to Warner Brothers cartoons, like the Bugs Bunny and
Yeah.
Roadrunner stuff. I mean, it's one of those things. They were like they had never experienced this, and they were like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" It's like right, exactly. It is amazing,
Yeah.
and I think Nintendo kind of hits on that same
Yeah.
level, right?
Which I love, because I'm
Yeah.
such a casual gamer at this point.
Yeah.
I play World of Warcraft still, World of Warcraft
Jeez.
Classic. and
Okay.
I just got into it. I hadn't played it for like 13 years,
Started
and
the first Diablo.
yeah. And then Warcraft 3 is getting remastered,
Okay.
so I'm
And we're
very
getting
into
into like
this.
movies in that way, isn't it? Like there's so many remakes now, and except they call them remastering. Like
Yeah,
it's the same
but why
game, but they
not?
make
You
the
know what?
graphics better.
Why not
No,
do it?
no, I'm
I'm
not
into it.
complaining. Yeah,
So back to the CNET list here. The
right. Sorry.
Impossible Pork. This
The
is
what now?
the Impossible
Oh, the
Pork.
Impossible Pork. Yeah.
Okay, I asked a lot of people that tried this.
Okay.
They were blown away how much it tastes like pork.
Yeah.
They
Here's the
were.
problem.
That
It's
is the.
processed food.
It is all
It
processed
is
food.
incredibly unhealthy. I mean, it sounds like you're eating vegetables instead of meat. That must be super healthy. The single worst thing you can do in any diet and just in eating is to eat processed food. Period. Well, actually, I would say sugary beverages is probably number one. Processed food is, and I guess think sugary beverages are processed food.
Yeah.
Just don't eat processed food. That's
Um.
eat real food.
Yeah. Listen, the Impossible Burger is not healthy for you. It is not
No,
healthy for you.
I look, it's kind of a weird thing because my daughter's a vegetarian, right? So she's had Impossible Burger
Oh,
and
what does she
things like
think of it?
Impossible Burger. She hates it
Because it
because
tastes
my
like meat.
daughter is a vegetarian. She doesn't want to eat something that looks and tastes and feels like meat. She doesn't want that. That she is a vegetarian.
So my
So
wife was a vegetarian for 2 years.
yeah,
Not ethical reasons. It was just a dietary thing. She was doing this diet, and then she kind of liked
okay,
how she felt.
yeah,
And she would still have a little bit, like she would have fish,
yeah.
a little bit of fish sometimes.
I
She would
have
have a
begged my
little bit of
daughter
chicken.
to be a pescatarian. Like Mary Jo Foley's a
It makes
pescatarian,
life so much
and
easier.
oh my god, it would make life so much easier.
But
But she doesn't do
generally, she was eating only. She was a vegetarian, not a vegan
it. Yeah.
vegetarian. She would
Okay.
have eggs. She always had
Yep.
eggs.
Well,
So
that's eggs are okay. Yeah.
So we
Okay.
went to a
Yep.
steakhouse for my birthday. She's like a year and a half deep into this. And she's
Mhm.
like, you know what? I'm going to get a steak. I was like, really?
She
She's
must
like, yeah,
have
we're
she
at a
must have
steakhouse.
gotten
I'm going to
sick.
get it.
She got sick.
She took one bite.
Yep.
She had to spit it out. She goes, oh my God, this is rancid. She's
It
like,
would
it
it
tastes like
would
metal.
if she had eaten it, she would have gotten sick. Like her body couldn't handle meat. That's
It-
one of the issues. Like
that was the problem. Her body, it
yeah.
tasted like metal to her. She's like, it just
Yeah,
tastes like
interesting.
metal. I took a bite. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
She couldn't
Yeah.
have it. She ordered something else, but it's interesting. So I think if you're a vegetarian and you
Well,
haven't
these
eaten
foods
meat
are
in
not
a
for
while,
vegetarians,
no,
right? So
no,
you have to understand, like the Impossible Burger and the Impossible Pork or whatever are for meat eaters who normal people who normal people. Why did I say it like that? People who eat like a traditional diet who would like to eat healthier. But that's the problem. These things are not healthier.
no.
So it's like, yeah, it's not meat. Right. So okay. So it's that if you want more of a plant-based diet or whatever, you should eat more plants, not more processed foods.
Jeez,
These
Paul,
things
too
are not
much
healthy.
logic here.
The calories are just as bad or worse. The fact that it's processed means overall it's less healthy.
Or if you don't
It's
give a
just
shit about your diet, you just ethically a vegetarian or vegan.
yep.
You know,
You okay. But
maybe
again,
that.
if you're ethically doing that, I think you're at I mean, unless you just started, you're not gonna want to eat something that tastes like meat.
Yeah,
Like I don't know.
I
I
find it
look,
interesting.
I think it's a step. It's an important step. They need to figure out a way to do this where it's healthy.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, it's like
we got
you
veggie
know what it's
burgers
like.
and they're pretty
It's the
good.
vaping of the food world. Yeah,
Interesting.
it's
Very,
it's
very,
better for
very
you
good
than
comparison.
smoking, but it's not good for you. So it's like, yeah, I mean, in matter of degrees, yeah, I guess it's better, but the truth is it'd be better if you just didn't eat it.
The Impossible Burger, the vaping of eating.
Yeah,
I
that's
like
what
that.
it is.
TCL had a foldable phone. People were talking about. Let's see what else.
Well,
Vizio has
let's pause briefly on foldable
yeah.
phones because foldable phones are to phones what vinyl is to music. It is a silly hipster fad that is just I mean the old flip phone thing. Like I think there's a future for dual screen, not really dual screen, but we'll call them folding screen devices where
Yeah.
the screen folds because you can pocket it and then have a bigger screen when it's out.
Hmm.
I think there's some sense to that. But Motorola Razr or whatever they're called, or the little, bringing back like a StarTAC type phone? No,
It's a
no,
gimmick.
that's
You know what? Actually, out of all
that's
the
silly.
phones, I kind of like that one the best aesthetically.
Because you are a hipster.
I am. What do you want from
I
me?
knew it. I knew it.
Fine, I admit it.
You have a turntable, don't you?
I do have vinyls, yeah. I have a
Oh
lot of
my God.
vinyls. I got a lot of Beatles, and I got a whole bunch of vinyls. I never use it, but I have one.
Okay.
I also don't like a 9-to-5 job. I have I make bizarre career choices for me. I do podcasting, generally with
Yep.
men that are 30 years older than me.
Wow. Wow. How old do you think I am?
I mean, you may be 30 years older than me.
I don't think I'm 30 years older than you. What are you talking about?
I'm 35. Aren't you
I'm only
65?
53.
Oh,
I'm less
you're
than
not
20 years
65.
older than you. Jeez.
You're not 60, Paul? I
No,
thought you
I'm
were in the
not. I know I
60s.
act like I am.
Wow.
I get up from this chair and I'm holding my back as I limp away.
My wife one time goes to me, she goes, "You have a lot of older male friends." I'm like, "What does that mean?"
Exactly. There's a conversation you want to have with
I
your
was
wife.
like, "What does that mean?"
She said accusatorily.
She's like, "I don't know. Paul and you and Spencer and your friend Bob." I was like, "Maybe
Sure.
I got a type. Maybe that's what it is.
You have a type.
Maybe I have a type. Maybe I'm gonna call Leo and see if he wants to be my friend. I'm gonna call
Oh my
8888
God.
Ask Leo on Saturday and ask him. Maybe I have a type. Chris Tobin, Kirk, they're
Did you ever
older.
watch the show Killing Eve?
No.
So watch it. It's fantastic.
Is it about
It,
having young
well,
male companions as
no,
as
it's
older
actually
men?
the two main characters are two women, but it is about having part of it's about having a type, and someone is trying to describe. They're speaking in French, but they're describing this older guy, and the woman doesn't know the word in English, so she says he's an ours, and that's a bear in French. That was the type, in this case, and I was like, yeah, and you as you were talking, I'm like, that's your type. That's here you
Oh,
go,
I
like
got a
the
type, all
older
right.
older
The
white
August
guy.
Wi-Fi smart lock was also on the list, and a lot of people were praising this. It's a really nice looking smart lock.
Smart lock.
So I have. Do you have a smart lock or no?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I have the not a Nest, but it's like part of that family. I forgot what it's called. It's part of like that whole
Yeah.
group. Let me see. Nest.
I could see
lock.
that. That's something I could see doing.
The Yale. I have the Yale.
Oh wow. Okay, so kind of a classic lock company, but
Yeah,
you
I have
have
the Nest
you have
Yale.
okay. Oh,
Uh,
it's called a Nest Yale.
yeah. It's a
Really?
Google Nest, but it's made by Yale.
That's interesting. I didn't know they did that.
And I absolutely love it. It's great. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's actually I had a different smart lock before this, and I absolutely hate it. And I got this one, and I actually really like, because it actually works right, and it alerts
Yeah,
me if I didn't
okay.
lock my door for more than X amount of time.
I like
So
I like the idea. This one I could picture doing this.
and it has something called a privacy mode, where if I hit the privacy mode, you can't put your pin in to try to get in the house,
Yeah.
which
Right.
I kind of like.
Right. That's good
But
for
they
keeping
were
the
on.
stalkers out.
They were on there. Paul is a Gen Xer. Are
A
you a
Gen
Gen
Xer.
Xer? Are you?
I don't know. What does that mean?
I don't know. Paul is the Simpson
That sounded like an
generation,
accusation.
young-
Paul is
Yeah.
a Gen Xer. Jerk.
Did you see what Paul was doing? I found out he's a Gen Xer. The Lenovo had a foldable laptop. What did you think of that?
I don't know. Really, I don't know. I don't know what to think about that stuff. I think that in the PC space, obviously, the big thing this year was these folding and dual screen devices. And I don't know. I don't know yet. I mean, I'm interested, but I don't know. I don't personally see the utility of it.
I'm just going down this list. Suncast is asking, "Am I doing what to talk?" I said, "Yes, I am," which we'll begin in a little bit. That the personal massager, the
Mhm.
Laura, is on everybody's list. I'm
The
curious how
personal
much money this
massager.
a a personal massager, an intimate
This sounds like
massager.
a sex toy.
Yes, that's what it is. That's what we're
Oh, it
talking
is.
about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
So,
Laura.
I know that this was a big thing at CES this year, and Look, in the sense that I am obviously replaceable, I have no problem with this.
But I find it funny that it's a tech device now. It's being considered technology.
But of course it is, right? I mean, in many ways, that industry has driven technology more than any other market. I mean,
Yeah.
over the years. So sure.
There was there's an article, I got to pull it up, but there was an article I read like 2 years ago, and it was what YouTube learned from porn
Oh,
and
jeez.
how to do, and it was about the early building out of YouTube, right? Like
Right.
pre-Google or right when Google purchased, and what they learned from like the number one sites, which were porn sites. So
Okay.
how they were able to create the service to have the volume and what they learned from it. I thought it was a while ago I
Hmm.
read that article, but you may have a point there. All right, we're gonna do what to talk
Okay.
today. Guys, if you like the show, you've been with us for a while. I know we got a bunch of people watching. We got a couple hundred people watching across all our platforms. Do us a favor. First of all, if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. I'm going to give you the plug. Hey guys, Andrew here. Remember to subscribe and like the video, and make sure you hit the bell for notifications. Did I
Oh
do that
God,
one
please
good?
don't. I cannot. That phrase or any variant of it is when I stop watching a
Don't
YouTube channel. I
effing tell me
cannot
to hit
stand.
the bell.
Ring the bell and blah blah blah. Like, oh my God, stop.
Hey guys, because of YouTube's algorithm, we're not getting so many subscribers anymore. So make sure you ding that bell for notifications. I could have been a YouTuber
That's
in
the
another
last thing
life.
anyone wants to do.
Uh,
Is ring that
Nobody wants to
bell.
ding the bell. I've never dung the bell. But if you enjoy the show, subscribe to us. It's a huge help. We're going to hit, I think by the end of the year, we might hit 10,000 YouTube subscribers, which is amazing considering we don't do YouTube style content. We just do long form podcasts and we just have a video element, which I love doing. So you can hit the subscribe button here. Also, we're everywhere podcasts are available, so subscribe to us. And if you really love us, you can go to patreon.com/whatthetech and fund us there. As little as $1 per week gives you access to our bonus show that we record each and every week. It could be anything from technology to me talking about the Anunnaki and conspiracy theories. So Paul just ranting about his house. So
I was just thinking about you this morning.
where are you? I think about you in the mornings too.
Yeah, right. I was taking a shower. No, I was I I don't always do this, but sometimes I'll watch parts of a movie while I'm on the treadmill or the elliptical thing. And I just finished watching a movie and I was kind of scrolling through my list of stuff like what do I want to watch next? And I was watching Close Encounters of the Third Kind, right?
Okay.
And of course the version you get now on like a video service is like the version that's been kind of it's got all this additional footage added back to it and everything. It's things like almost 3 hours long. It's a really big movie, but I was watching the beginning of it, like say the first 30 minutes, and I was like, Andrew would love this movie. This is like if this movie had come out when Andrew was a child,
What, Close Encounters
this
of
would
the
have
Third
been the
Kind?
only thing you ever talked about.
What, Close Encounters?
Yeah.
I've seen it 1,000 times. One of my favorite movies. As a
I haven't
kid,
watched it in forever. I mean, like I was a kid when it came out, and it was a big deal for sure. But I'm watching it now, and I'm like, this is really well made. Like
it
it's
was
really
really well
really well
made.
made. Yeah.
Had the little it didn't have the little robots that flew around, right?
Yeah, the cute one that
Yeah.
goes through the thing last, and then it makes all the toll booths go off or whatever.
You know what? I haven't watched
I
this movie in so long.
You
I
should watch it again if you haven't seen it in a while.
I may
It's
watch it again. You
I
know what's
think you'll
funny?
enjoy it quite a bit.
Well, I was wrapping it up, but I do want to say, people are going to be so confused now because whenever I start ending the show, they
Yeah.
actually turn off the show, and then
Yes.
I get an email saying like, "Dude, I just turned it off, and now I'm hearing that you guys spoke about this."
Yeah, you went on for 10 more minutes.
Yeah. So on my Fire TV, and this is something I want to talk about. On my Fire TV, I put the Apple app, the Apple TV
Yep.
app.
Yeah, yep, I did too.
Dude, that's all I'm using now. I'm just renting movies
Yeah,
on there.
but you know what you've seen the problem, right?
The problem is you got to do it on your phone.
What do you mean?
So you can't. I can't go in the app, for example, the Apple TV app on the Fire
Oh, and
TV,
buy something or
and
rent
buy
something.
something. I have
Yes,
to
that's
purchase
true.
it on my phone.
I'm sorry, that is a problem. That's the other problem. But you know what the other one is?
No, what?
You don't get the extra features.
Like what?
So if you bought like a movie on from Apple,
Mhm.
you don't get any of the extra features. All you can do is watch the movie.
What are some of the extra features?
Well, it's like when you buy a Blu-ray or a DVD or whatever. It has all the
When you buy, yeah, but I
documentaries
only
and-
rent. I only rent them.
Oh, okay. So you're not,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
mean, for me, like there are
Okay.
movies that I really care about, like Close Encounters. Like I'd have to go look, but I mean, I bet they have like a director's commentary track, and they might
Oh, I'm
have
sure.
alternate versions of the movie and behind the scene documentaries and blah blah blah. And that stuff is only available if you're on the Apple device.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
But I
but
have to tell you,
I
I
also yeah I use it a lot. We just watched Servant last night, for example, which is
on
a
what
great,
on
by the way, really good TV series
what do you on what on the Apple on
on
Apple?
Apple. Yeah, it's the
Uh,
M Night Shyamalan thing.
but
So
through a different through the Fire TV or Roku or
Fire
Apple
TV.
TV. Okay, Fire TV.
It's
I
on
love the Fire
Apple, but
TV, dude.
I watch it on Fire TV. Yeah.
I absolutely love the Fire TV. That is my favorite. The Fire TV is my favorite platform to watch stuff on.
So I'm using it now too.
See, you weren't. You were a Roku guy.
Yeah, and you know what though, in keeping with what I said earlier about Google and listening and blah blah blah. I mean, I got to be honest. Like one of the problems I have with the Amazon thing is it's tied to Amazon, and so I I find like I'm only using like a Fire TV stick, over Ethernet. I think the performance is great. I actually prefer the UI to Roku. Roku has like ads in it, which are gross. Not that Amazon doesn't, but they just seem better integrate. Like the Roku interface is just kind of garbage, you know.
They haven't evolved.
No, they really
I mean,
haven't.
that's really what it is.
I would pay them not to have ads. I don't understand what's going
No,
on
I
there.
love the Fire TV. I have
Yeah,
one
it's
that's
good.
kind of, I have I play around with that one, and I have like emulators and stuff on there as like a toy.
Mhm.
I did it like as a project, and then the other one's just I didn't sideload anything, just regular apps. And between YouTube TV and now with
Yep.
Apple TV on there, it's literally everything I'm watching.
Yeah.
But I may
Yeah.
rent a movie because Jess and I got into renting movies. We rented what did we rent recently? We
Well,
rented
just
The
rent from
Joker.
Amazon. I mean, why bother going through your phone? Like you can just rent
I
directly
don't
from
know.
Amazon.
I started renting it on there because sometimes I stop and I go downstairs.
I see.
So I kind of like that I have that crossover. But
Yeah. Okay.
what
No, I do everything through Apple too. I'm just trying to, as far as
we
if I'm going to buy something or rent it,
you want
I
it in one.
also I go through Apple. Yeah.
So we rented Joker.
Mhm.
We watched Joker, and then we watched Hustlers.
Hustlers, jeez.
I mean, it's kind of appropriate
Sure.
for me to watch.
Sure. Right. It's
Yeah.
not a documentary, Andrew. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're kind of a conspiracy theorist now.
Wait a minute. Is it not a documentary, that movie? I thought it was.
Right.
I thought that was a documentary. All right, guys. So if you enjoy the show and you want us to continue doing it, obviously thanks to our sponsors, and of course thanks to you guys that sign up on Patreon, patreon.com/whatthetech. You could go there, sign up, $4 a month. That's it. It helps us out. It keeps the lights on. Paul got a beautiful haircut. He looks handsome. It's all because of you. He's using new products.
Products.
Yeah, new hair products, face products. We're
Wow.
trying to stay youthful for you guys in this generation of
I
technology.
thought I was 30 years older than you. What kind of products do you think I'm using?
At least. Listen, Paul's Botox is very expensive, guys.
Oh my God.
We need to do this. All right, guys. If you're watching this live, stay tuned. What the Talk comes up right now. If not, go to patreon.com/whatthetech. Follow us there. Check us out there. Also, at The Rod on Twitter, at Andrews Arian on Twitter. We'll see you all next time. Take care.
Let me check for updates.
I got in the groove at the end of the show, Paul. I got to tell you. I've been really sluggish this morning. I got in the groove.
Yeah.
Scott Johnson doesn't have to worry about YouTube at the moment. Yeah, they killed his channel. Albert, do you know why they killed Scott Johnson's channel?
Who?
Scott Johnson, Frog Pants Network. He's a podcaster. Actually, he's.
I gotta find out if you know somebody.
In real life?
Just I've heard of him, maybe.
Okay.
I'm really into horror movies.
Okay.
Right? So there's this guy who does a series. His YouTube channel is called Dead Meat,
Okay.
and his name is James Janice.
James Janice.
You should look this guy up.
Okay.
He's
Hold on.
he's
Dead
incredible,
Meat.
and his videos all have millions of views. Millions.
Oh, I've seen
And
this
all
guy.
he-
Yeah.
He
I've seen him.
reviews horror movie, or he does like kill count videos. He does
Yeah.
a podcast.
Yeah, I've seen his videos. I saw his It video.
Okay, yeah, he's pretty good.
You like him?
Yeah,
Oh, I thought
Even though he's
that's
obviously like a millennial scumbag. No, he's good.
he's good.
I think I got my I gotta take a screenshot of this. I think I got my last Windows XP Windows 7 updates. Could these be them? It says security and quality. No,
Can you
that's
give me
not
can
it.
you give me a minute before we start?
Yeah.
All right. Hold on. Oh my god, I'm gonna put it on nothing. My hip's killing me, Paul. I'll be right back.
Yep. Ended. It says ended. Oh, the full screen notification appears tomorrow. This notification. Oh, my. Mm. Mm.
All right, sorry about that.
Sorry.
Sorry about that. Get
Nope.
the lower third up. There we go. You ready?
Yeah, 1 second. Sorry. I just want to put this. Blah, blah, blah. All right. So I will install this after we're done.
What are you doing? Windows updates?
Yeah. I'm just looking at, yeah. Yeah. So apparently tomorrow is when the full screen warnings start happening.
Oh, tomorrow. Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3.
Okay. All right. Anywho, what are we doing?
Okay. I'm gonna start now. All right, guys. We'll hit record in 3, 2, and 1. Hey, everybody. Welcome to what the
Yep.
All right. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna keep that in. I'm not even deleting it. Welcome to What the Duck. This is our bonus show.
Wow.
We
just
record it live
nailing
each
it
and every
in.
week. I don't know what happened there. I fell apart. I forgot what show I was doing. I'm wearing a Matman
Sure.
shirt, so I saw it say Matman, and I was like, wait a minute, what show
Yep.
am I recording
Yep.
right now?
I looked out and I saw a really old guy, and I figured it was like the other show I did with the really old guy.
He got so upset. I hurt your
Yeah.
feelings. I'm so sorry.
No, it's
You're
okay.
very youthful.
Yes. Yeah, I often say that.
I
Jesus. Anyway.
love. I gotta tell you, I absolutely love busting your balls publicly because you're like a pit bull in real life.
Sure.
So this is how I get back at you.
I'm like a pit bull in real life. Wow.
Oh yeah, you're a total ball buster. I love it. That's why we get along.
I am a ball buster. It's
Yeah,
true.
that's
But
why we
you know,
get
I
along.
can take it. You know,
You're not a
I
soft.
cry. I cry by myself. I don't do it in
By-
public.
You- we were talking about what did we talk about today? We spoke about CES. We were talking about Windows 7 ending. Are you using Windows 7 currently?
Yep.
You are as an experiment, or you have something laying around with it?
Yeah. I mean, so I'm gonna use it for the next. I through the weekend, something like that. The only time I'm not using is I'm working on that programming project, and I'm doing that in Windows 10. So I'll go upstairs and use a laptop. But my day-to-day experience here is in Windows 7.
Yeah, I don't think. I don't think the I'm sorry. I got a bizarre crossover message for Suncast, and just like he got a message from someone that I work with, and I'm CC'd on it, and I'm like, why is he messaging John? and I got like almost offensive. I don't like
Wow.
people crossing over. He's mine. Don't talk to him.
Could you
Uh,
deliver a message for me to someone that I care
yeah,
about more than you?
yeah, please.
Mhm.
Um, so we were talking about all this stuff, and then I don't know how the topic came up. What do you watch on YouTube? We were talking about how it doesn't really appeal to a lot of the content, especially to me. Like my kids, it's the weirdest thing. All they
Yeah.
watch is other kids playing with toys that they don't have.
You know what?
It's so
I have
bizarre.
never heard of that, but as soon as you said it, I was like, that totally makes sense.
Oh, you've never heard of
Because
this?
no, but it makes sense,
Yeah,
right? It's like
that's
watching other
all.
people play video games or like it makes sense.
But my kids love like Ryan's toy review. This kid just plays with toys.
That's amazing.
And you know
Yeah.
how much money he makes? 22 million a year. That kid.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's mind blowing, and that's all they watch. They watch other kids playing and making videos, and I'm like, you know what? It is really cool
Yeah.
that there's this weird, uh, I call it like public access took over mainstream. This is all like public access level content, and
It is and it isn't. I mean,
it is and
honestly,
it
the
isn't.
production values are incredible. That's one thing that's changed. And I have to say, my knee jerk reaction, of course, is to make fun of anything like this. But as my wife recently commented, and I've noticed this as well, like you want to do something. Like I want to, could I run an Ethernet cable between the wall, the two rooms, or could I do that? Like videos for everything are on YouTube, like everything.
Yeah, everything.
And
I mean, to the point that I wanted to change the head gaskets on my Subaru, and I found a video.
yeah, yeah, no, I mean it's hard to complain about that. The other thing that's really cool about YouTube, even though it's not always fantastic, is if you really care about like a band, there will
Yeah,
be live recordings of them in every possible configuration. Like it's kind of cool. Like this is stuff. It really has. It's not. Look, there's a lot of crap, of course, but I mean, it's kind of amazing to me. I don't know. I think that stuff is neat. Of course, I don't watch any of that. I watch stupid shit. But I mean, whatever.
but is there anything like my wife doesn't understand how I watch YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Like that's my form of entertainment. I really don't. I like that I could decide on watching something else. Like I watched a story of a Vietnam vet talk about. It's an older video. It's probably from the 70s, and
Right.
he's talking about his experience and what he saw in Vietnam, and he was a kid when he went there. I found that video so fascinating
Wow.
watching it. And it was like a
I, I
20-minute
watch
video.
I watch dumb things. I don't watch anything that good.
Oh, I watch everything though. I watch stupid stuff and I watch good stuff. But
I
it's
watch
really
Family
become
Guy
my
clips. I watch those horror video things I was talking about earlier. I haven't done this in a few months or weeks or whatever, but I've spent many, many days watching just like Dean Martin roasts from the 70s. Um, I love stuff like that. Like I could whittle away. I mean, this is like this is like passing time stuff. So there's like you could watch a 30-minute or 60-minute TV show, you could watch a movie, but sometimes you just have, I don't know, you're gonna go out and your wife's gonna be like 15 minutes or
yeah.
something, and you're like, what's on YouTube?
I uh I find it that's just how I watch content. You know what I like watching?
Yeah,
Other people review movies that I've seen already. I'm big
right.
into that. Uh
Yeah, I watched. I'm a big Star Wars fan. I watched a lot of like
Mandalorian
the Star
episode
Wars
reviews.
spoiler stuffs. The stuff before the movie, before I saw the movie.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Oh, you watch the spoilers before you watch the actual
yeah. I know
movie.
that's not for everybody. Some people are
I get
very
it.
adamant. Well, here's the problem. So, not to get off on a rant about this new Star Wars movie, which was terrible, but um, that series has devolved into what happens with like the Marvel superhero movies or with a lot of mainstream. Actually, J.J. Abrams is responsible for most of this. It kind of goes back to Lost, where you don't. There are references to things that you'll never understand if you're not like a complete insider. So like
Mhm.
the opening scene of that movie takes place in a location that should be familiar to any Star Wars fan, but because it looks completely different now, you don't know that that's where it is. And there's a whole backstory to it. There's a reason it looks the way it does, and they don't explain it in the movie at all. And
Yeah.
like you wouldn't, you can't. I mentioned this one to my wife afterwards because I was like, you don't even. I know you don't even care, but it's like you as a normal person, you would never know this stuff. Like there's a whole I don't know what to call. I don't know what you call this. It's like superhero movies will reference like issue 117 that came out in 1976 had like a one panel introduction to this character, and it's he's in the new Avengers movie, and it's like
Yeah.
okay, like it's just like it's like a level of fandom that is
I
weird, you know.
I like the Easter egg videos and stuff like that, like what you missed out. And then there were
Yeah,
other people that were talking about how, like, did you
yeah,
watch Joker?
not yet. I will.
Okay. I don't want to ruin the movie, but the way that
Okay.
the media projected this thing into, it's going to incite all this violence, and it's
Hmm.
a calling for incels that are going to shoot up.
Right, right.
How, and then the headlines were, super violent, terrifying movie. People are walking out of the movie theaters. I was like, to the point after watching it, I thought I watched like a censored version. It
Right,
was
right.
beyond
Because it can't
tame.
live up to the hype.
It can't live up.
Yeah.
No, but it was saying like it's gonna make these young, angry white men go and start shooting. It's a call for white
Yeah. No,
nationalism.
just like Call of Duty does.
Call it, yeah, I know. And I'm
Just
thinking, I
it's
go,
that's why we
I
have
wa-
violence. It's because of
did
Call of
we
Duty.
watch the same movie?
Right.
He's an anti-hero
Yeah.
that has a psychological issue. The guy was crazy. I mean, he was
Right.
off his medication. The biggest story is, the class war of Gotham. And I go, and
Mhm.
top it off, it's a fucking movie. Let's remember this. It's fake. It's make believe. Joker is
Yeah.
not real. Bruce Wayne is not a real person.
By the
And
way,
at the yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
nothing. It bothered me. I was like, why is this a big deal? It's a really good movie. I enjoyed it, but it's not this, calling for,
Yeah.
guys to start shooting up schools and movie
Yeah,
theaters.
because
It's a story
that's
about a
what comes
deranged
out of
man.
Hollywood is movies like that.
It's a story about a deranged
It's like
man.
a recruitment video for ISIS that was made by Paramount.
I know. I
Um,
know.
that's ludicrous. By the way, one
Yeah.
thing I watched recently that you just reminded me of is original news footage from 1973 or whatever year it was, when The Exorcist came out. People were going to the movie and getting sick and passing out, and they would stand in line for 5 hours to see the movie, and then 20 minutes in they had to leave because you got to remember this
It
is
was so
before
scary.
Star Wars and special effects and like a non-practical special effects. Like people thought it was real, you know.
Yeah.
And of course, the country was more religious back then, or well, there were more Catholics or whatever. But
Oh, it's also
it
more
seemed like,
isolated. If you're in a small
yeah,
town,
just
you're in a
it's
small town.
people saw this and they were like, "Oh my God, this is real."
Is
And
that how
you would
people
never
felt?
have that problem today. You
Okay,
know,
so my mother told me about, what year did it come out?
I want to say
78?
73. I could be
It
wrong,
did
but
it?
yeah, it was early 70s.
I thought it was late 70s.
No, it was. I bet it was
70, yeah,
73.
73, Exorcist 2, 77. Okay. So 1973, was
Yeah.
there ever a movie to this level that was out like that?
Well,
Like gore and as far as, the
yeah,
fear factor?
no, I mean, I mean, there were like, so I would say like a movie like 2001: A Space Odyssey was a realistic depiction of space as we thought of it at the time. So that was kind of interesting. Um, I think Psycho, which is black and white, and a lot of the Hitchcock stuff
More
was
psychological.
probably, yeah. But I mean, there was some horror elements and scary stuff, and I think that might have a lot of that stuff probably freaked people out. But like, no, The Exorcist was like a it was a big thing. It was huge. Um, and yeah, I think,
I
like I
mean, you
said, I
know
think
what though?
people thought it was real.
Looking at it with 2020, glasses on,
Yeah.
you're like, okay, nothing that I haven't seen. But you go to 1973, uh, I would be terrified of the scene where she's sitting up and down on the bed.
Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Of
just
course.
I
The
I would
scene where her
I
head spins
understand.
around probably looks ludicrous today, but at the time it was like, what's going like it's like what is happening here? Like, it was crazy. It's crazy.
And people were
The
getting out of the
religious
movie
stuff in
theater.
it is nuts. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
it's incredible.
yeah. It's interesting because you have then you have like Saw.
Yeah. Right.
which is a modern gore fest, and people
Yeah. What do you call that? Like torture porn kind of
torture
movies,
porn. Yeah,
basically, like the Hostel or Teresa. There's a bunch of those things. Like yeah, it's all about just well, Friday the
just
13th probably
yeah,
kind of
gruesome
kicked off
stuff.
that era.
I find it fascinating, the whole. But you did bring up a good point. The perception. I did a whole thing on the wrestling show today about perception and why
Like
certain
the
characters
perception
do
that
well.
wrestling is a sport.
It is a sport. The perception of what's good and what's not, right? Like
Oh,
what makes
yeah.
one match better than the other one. And it's a perception of the people in it, perception of people what they're doing. But the same goes for, looking at a film in cinema from the
Yeah.
70s. What your perception is based on your experiences or lack of experience. So when you look at it
Yeah.
today, you have a very different. You can't view things the same way because it was a different time. Same thing with
Yeah.
politics, and same thing with
Sure.
human behavior and the way that we act and what we say and what we do. Things that would be acceptable then are not because it's a different time.
Right. Right.
I less about the political stuff, but more about. I always think about this with
Well, by the
medicine.
way, but real quick on the political stuff. I mean, I've often, people are like, "Oh, it's the end of times." It's like you obviously weren't alive in the '60s because
Yeah,
politicians were being assassinated. Millions of people were protesting the Vietnam War in the Washington Mall. College students were being shot.
yeah.
Um, you know,
I
I look, things are terrible today. Obviously, there are partisan terribleness, this terribleness, but uh, you kind of can't even compare what's happening today
Yeah,
to the
but we also
'60s.
didn't
I mean,
have
my
we also
God.
didn't have Twitter where everybody's freaking out.
Yeah,
Like I
right,
got
right.
into a
The
big argument.
amplifying, yeah, nonsense, of course. Yeah,
I got into an argument with a friend of mine's girlfriend. We all went out for drinks and we're talking, and she's very big on what happened in Iran. Okay, very very involved, and she's talking about whatever she's talking. And I said, listen, I go, I said, I don't agree with anything you're saying, and you're totally off base. I'm just going to tell you. She goes, what makes you, she goes, what makes you think that?
yeah,
Why do you know better? I go, first of all, my family escaped there in 79.
right.
So I'm a little bit more connected to like what it's like over there for people.
Mm,
Second, you have no idea what you're talking about because you have zero experience. You're from the Midwest and you're 25 years old.
sure.
I lost it on her. I go, you're not right. She's like, no, I'm right. This is what it's like over there. I'm like, no,
Oh,
it's not.
jeez.
It's not what it's
Oh
like over
boy.
there. I'm like, you've never been there. You would never
Right.
survive in a country like that. The freedom that we have in this country is not even. They can't even conceptually understand it. That you could say, f the president if you want. You could do whatever you want, and you know what? Generally, if it's not a life-threatening or harmful act, it's understandable.
Yeah.
Over there, you can't disagree with anything. There's no
Right.
freedom. And the people that seem that they have freedom, they think they have freedom, they've never grown up with it. So, and I lost it. And I go, this is one subject. And her boyfriend, fiance, turned around and is like, listen, this is, you got to drop. He goes,
You got to just
you're
walk away from
arguing with someone that knows.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
what does it taste like? Strawberries. Have you ever had a strawberry? No.
Right. Right.
It just it drove me nuts. But perception and stuff. Like when we look 50 years from now,
Yeah.
we're gonna look back at medicine more than anything else and say, oh my God, that's how we treated cancer. That's how we treated this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Not too long ago, we
Well,
were doing
it's
lobotomies.
yeah. Well, it's like seeing smoking in movies, right? The casualness with which people smoked, the frequency of it on planes, in offices. Like, it's like, did you really not know? I mean, and I don't know.
And by the
I don't
way,
know what they knew, but
we still do lobotomies occasionally.
yeah, I need one.
Just let me take a screwdriver, put in your head, and just scramble things around and see
Well,
what happens.
jeez, yikes! I don't think you're supposed to blend it. I think
You're
it's more
not?
about relieving
I
pressure, isn't
just
it? I don't know.
I find it fascinating that 1977 U.S. Congress started. They created the National Committee of Protecting Human Subjects, and this was to
Yeah.
stop lobotomies from happening. We were doing
Hmm.
it in many people's lifetime. It
Sure.
still goes on. So we're gonna look back and think, how do we do it? Leeches. We would put leeches on people and say that
Yep.
it was, for medical use. We're going to look back at that. That's, out of all the what ifs, like I could see technology improving, I could see technology changing.
Yeah.
You could kind of due to science fiction magazines and books and the internet, you could kind of foresee what it's
Right.
going to bring because it kind of dictates what, sci-fi books dictate the technology of today. That's
Hmm.
really how a lot of these ideas have come and it kind of falls in place. But with medicine, you really can't predict it as much. But that's the thing that I always find interesting looking back 40 years ago and what we were doing and how we were treating medicine and our lack of understanding of medicine compared to
Yeah,
today.
we've always been ignorant. Remember, Magic Johnson had HIV, and
They didn't let him play
nobody
basketball.
wanted him on the court because they thought if he sweated or whatever, that they were going to get AIDS.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just there was horrific ignorance. Of course.
Ignorance, hysteria. I mean, the
Yeah.
hysteria of it. I was thinking about this and I was talking to my wife because she's an educator. I go, let me ask you. I'm like, do they teach kids about AIDS in school? They go, not really. Not like how they taught us, like when we were kids. Like
Yeah. Well,
it was
yeah,
the
it's a different. I mean, AIDS is probably something that will be
It's
hopefully solved
manageable
in our
now.
lifetime, but it's
Well, it's
it's certainly a
manageable.
lot. It's not a death sentence, like it was in 1989 or whatever, for sure. I mean,
I find that. Is there any like I always think like they're gonna look back 100 years from now and say like for chemotherapy or radiation therapy,
yeah.
that's gonna be the one that they look back
Well,
and they say,
chemotherapy is the indiscriminate bombing of Germany to solve, you
yeah,
know, a certain problem, and
that's really
yeah,
what the
yeah, it's barbaric. Yeah, it's a barbaric response to a problem. Yeah, I
and
for
that
sure.
but for a lack of because we don't have another answer, you know.
Yep.
That's what really. That's what it comes down to. We don't know, so let's just poison you and hope for the best and
Yep.
see if you do better, which is insane. But my mother-in-law did radiation treatment for
Mhm.
thyroid cancer multiple times. Twice she got it,
Right.
and it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's not a fun process. Even though that's even a, I mean, it's like a really good. There's no good form of cancer, but that's one that you give me a list of stuff you could survive that. That's an easy. That's a very high survival rate compared to
Sure.
getting leukemia or something far worse. But I mean, the fact that we poison ourselves to prevent
Yep.
this. The other thing is probably going to be pain pills. They're going to look back and say, "You believe this is how they did it? They would
Oh
just
my
give you
God.
these
Well, of
things
course,
that
yeah,
make
the
people
whole opioid
addicted."
thing. Yeah. Even
Opioids are going to be it.
I don't get everything right, but I mean, many years ago when I had knee surgery, I got whatever crazy drugs they gave me, and I sort of intuitively understood, like, I want to wean myself off this immediately. Like, I
Yeah,
took far less of that than I could have, specifically because I just knew I didn't want to rely on that, you know. But when you have chronic whatever the pain is, I mean,
you can't.
it's
Yeah,
hard.
you're on that.
It's
Yeah.
not your fault. I mean, my God, you of course you want it to be solved, but you don't understand that you're kind of introducing another problem, and trying to
But what do
solve a
you?
problem.
Is there what stands out to you that you feel from medicine, especially that will have an answer for? 50
Well,
years,
I mean,
100 years from now, we'll
obviously,
look back and
fixing cancer is kind of the big one. Although I just saw something. Apparently, cancer deaths are in fact down somehow, which is kind of amazing. We're going to discover that eating processed food is what kills cancer. I don't, I don't know. I mean, I think we already touched on the big ones, really. I mean, AIDS and cancer are kind of the big ones. But look, being someone who has struggled with weight and things like that, like I care very much about nutrition, and I know from following this for many years, like we get all that wrong, and it's gone up and down, up and down. I mean,
yeah.
butter's bad, it's good. This is bad, this is good. Like there's so many fads, and there's so much misinformation, and there's so much contrary information, like limited studies, and like, and all of us, red meat's bad for you, red meat's good for you. Like it's amazing. I think the biggest problem, honestly, if you want to really scale it back, the biggest issue today related to this is this kind of rejection of science and fact, which is, I think, tied to this online stuff. And it's like the anti-vaxxer stuff. I mean, this is just like mass stupidity on a scale that you would have assumed could only have occurred in like the Middle Ages when we
Yeah.
just didn't know any better. you know, I think that's I don't know how you fix it, but we're gonna look back on this stuff and be like, seriously,
I think mental health treatment's
It's-
going to be,
yeah,
a big part in learning
yeah,
how to help people with that rather than just giving a whole bunch of medication and hoping for the best. A friend of mine went on SSRIs. They got they got let go from the job. They were going through. He was going through a divorce. They gave him a bunch of medication to test out.
hmm
And that's what he was saying. He's like, they put him on this medication. He felt like shit. He felt terrible. He's like, I don't think this is helping. They're like, no, no, no. We'll try it for like another month, and then we'll figure it out from there, and we could like pull the. I'm like, there's no. You're just guessing.
right.
I mean, it's just whatever medication you're
Well,
guessing would
that's
work.
I mean, guessing has
That's what you
always
get.
been part of medicine, frankly. I mean, you sometimes things come up where it's like this isn't obviously solvable. We have to try something.
Yeah. Let me see what else I have here. I had some answers here. Another scary movie was Alien, 1979.
Yeah, good one.
Um,
Well, the Amityville Horror is very much like The Exorcist in that as a book and then again as a movie, just like The Exorcist, people were freaked out by that and thought it was real. It was sold as a real story in the case of the Amityville Horror, which it obviously
yeah.
wasn't, but um that's scary stuff.
What,
It's going to be
Amityville?
1978-ish.
You tell me it's not real?
Sorry. Amityville 3D was real, but the other ones aren't.
Okay.
Um
I've
I
gone
don't
to the
know.
house. I've gone to Amityville.
Have you?
Yeah, it's not too far
Um
from me. It's on Long Island.
yeah, right.
Let me see what else people are saying here. I got a whole bunch of messages. Joker's an anti-hero we need now.
Okay.
I enjoyed
Yikes.
the movie. I really did. I thought it was done
Yeah, no, I'll
well.
definitely see it.
Yeah, and then
I'll
I watched
definitely see it.
Hustlers, which was the total
That one I'm
opposite.
not sure. I probably
You don't
won't see
want to
that
see Jennifer Lopez in a G-string on a
one.
stage.
I have to be honest, I pretty much had it with J-Lo.
I've had it with her. I'm up to
I
my neck in J
don't
Lo.
understand the appeal. You never have. I don't get it.
Let me see here.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's it. I think we're good. Um, I would love to do a show
Mhm.
on just like futurism.
On what?
Futurism.
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 What does that mean?
Like people who like talk about the future. Technology. Paul, you
I
know
see.
who did a show like that? Tom Merritt did a show like that. I forgot what it was called. But it was, technology that's coming out or like evolution in
Right.
technology or what I
Well, by
thought
the
you
way,
had a great concept for that.
at the very top, in the last show, I think you hit on something that is probably important. Like CS is over. So what really mattered, right? And I had a hard time coming up with any answer to that because there wasn't really much. But I think pulling, and I don't know, I'm not saying I did a good job, but I think pulling out the stuff that was truly important because some of that will matter. Most of it won't, you know. But I think there's a real skill to finding those couple of nuggets in there that are important that will have far-reaching ramifications. I think in the case of CES, to me, the biggest news that week didn't even happen at CES. It was the Sonos thing,
Yeah.
and
That
that
was a
has
big one.
really colored my view of things now. I mean, I'm confronted by something like that. It's like, yep, yeah, it's big. I
Of
think it's
course.
going to change things.
No, of course it's huge.
Not like over 20 years, but I mean,
No, but
that's going to influence decisions I make this year. It already has.
interesting. All right. See you guys next time, guys. Goodbye. That was fun.
I can install this stupid rebooting nonsense.
But you know what's amazing? No matter how much information we have at our hands, I need a thumbnail of Paul. Paul, hold on. Let me take the lower third out. I need a thumbnail of you. And in 3, 2, and 1. There we go. Oh, you can't save it? This is another location. What does that mean?
Are we taking a picture? What are we doing?
Hold on. Why is it not letting me? I'm gonna save it and download. I did. I took a picture, but it wouldn't let me
Oh, you did?
download it.
Okay.
All right, guys. Goodbye. Ending the stream. Let's end this one.